S. Shankar bringing the parliament up to speed with the developments vis-a-vis the rescue operations and the evacuation work that was carried out in war-hit Ukraine. It's day 20 of Russian assault on Ukraine, and that continues. It is the capital city now, Kiev, that is under attack. Russia has stepped up its offensive on Kiev. India Today is the only channel that is reporting right from the war zone. India Today contributor Rajesh Pawar is in Kiev, capturing the full extent of the Russian attack and its destruction. Today, a residential block inside Kiev was bombed. Huge plumes of smoke were seen coming out of this building.
Fire tenders are working. Two blasts yesterday as well. You can see fire there. This tender has been working for last 2 hours, but still a lot of apartment blocks are still burning. If you can see the fire there. And this is a fire tender working here, but still there is fire. It's been burning for last 2.5 hours since it was struck by a missile in the morning today at 4:30 to 5 local time. The complete building has been destroyed, and there was another blast which I saw just before this. It was in the middle of a road. Nearby buildings were damaged, but it fell on a broad road, so not much casualties. But here I believe few people have died and a lot of them were injured. See, Russian forces are still a little far away. I mean, the nearest advance which they have made towards Kiev, they are still about 12 to 13 kilometers away. But now the whole Kiev city is within the artillery range of the medium artillery and the multi-barrel rocket launchers, which Russian forces have. The entire city is within their range now. They can fire at will anywhere on any building in Kiev city. It is like about 10 kilometers away from the city center, but it is quite close to Irpin where the fighting was taking place, and maybe just about 10 kilometers from the front lines and 10 kilometers from the center. You can take it that way. And this is Akademia district. It's difficult for me to pronounce it right now, but Akademia district, which is named the place where it is, and it's a fully residential area. Only residential buildings in this whole area. No military establishment, no establishment of any strategic importance or any communication center. And this bomb has hit a completely residential sector inside the Kyiv city today morning around 4:30 to 5 local time. What time it happened? What time did the explosion took place? 4, 5 in the morning? Okay, but you okay? ये अंग्रेजी नहीं बोल पा रहे हैं, नहीं समझ पा रहे हैं, लेकिन इनका घर तबाह हुआ। ये बिल्डिंग में उस वक्त थे, मैंने इनसे बात की है। इन्होंने बताया कि बिल्डिंग के अंदर थे जब धमाका हुआ इतना बड़ा और ये भाग के निकले, लेकिन ये सुरक्षित है। लेकिन बिल्डिंग अभी भी जल रही है, अभी भी आग की लपटें देखी जा सकती है। और ये और फायर हुए हैं, 2 और बम अपने धमाके अभी हुए हैं, शायद कीव शहर के अंदर ही हुए हैं, काफी पास में हैं जो इस वक्त हुए हैं।
Our Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan is getting us all those details. She joins us from ground zero. Geeta is at this point in time in Lviv. Geeta, this is the same place where Russia has claimed to have killed 180 mercenaries in this particular region. Give us an idea about what is the situation right now as far as Russia's progression here is concerned.
Well, it is serious because it is not just confined to Kyiv. When everybody thought Lviv was safe, Neha, we are right now in Lviv, and you can see people. There has been an air raid alert here.
Okay, we'll just try and reconnect with Geeta. Once again, apologize for that poor line, but going across to Rajesh Pawar, who is getting us all those details from Kyiv right now, the capital city of Ukraine, where Russia is, Rajesh, relentless essentially, not sparing civilians, not sparing residential buildings. Give us an idea about how their progression essentially has been like in this particular city.
Look, as I've been reporting, except for last 2 days, before that it was quite calm here in Kyiv. Not too much of blast or missiles. We could not hear anything. It looked like a normal. But you can see right now, could you hear? Big blast again. So this has become a normal affair now in Kyiv city. Incessant firing, outskirts, you can hear blast one after the other. And it has become very, very normal for last 2 days. And we have covered now 2 residential buildings which were hit yesterday. It was in Oblon today it was in this Akadmikov district. So these areas have been hit, residential buildings have been hit, and now the sound of blasts has become quite normal. It's like normal affair. The way till few days it was air sirens. Now air sirens don't even matter. People don't, they become used to it. And now it looks like people have to start getting used to the sound of these blasts, which can be heard at regular interval now in Kiev city. Over to you.
What a terrible situation. Rajesh is telling us that the people there are getting used to just being distressed. You know, Geeta, this is upsetting at so many levels. You were in fact telling us about the ground situation in Lviv. I want you to continue, Geeta.
Well, that's right. We had a bit of a technical issue, but Sneha, I am in Lviv, and like Kiev, there have been incidents around outside of Lviv for sure, but there was an air raid alert, and people over here have been asked to move to the bomb shelters. Now, all buildings do not have bomb shelters and bunkers, and that's the reason why those who do not, if you see right behind me, people now moving into the city center where the bomb shelters have been made, the temporary shelters. So a lot of them walking into the shelters, and every time there is an air raid alert, which is a rarity for Lviv, and that's the reason why people take it very seriously. So you will see across from where I stand, you'll see a lot of people who are walking in only to make sure that they move to safety. An air raid alert, not once, thrice over across Lviv is certainly a concern and a worry. Why, Sneha? Is because Lviv is the supply line to most of the centers, primarily Kiev as well, when it comes to food and other facilities. So if there is a situation where Russia attacks these roads and infrastructure in Lviv, Kiev could very well face massive shortages. So that's the reason why this is a huge scare, and hoping only that the Russians do not cut off supply lines for the rest of Ukraine. If Putin says what he does, if the Putin administration say that they're not looking at harming civilians and civilians are not the targets, any destruction of supply lines would mean direct impact on the civilians of Ukraine living across various cities in the country.
Yes, absolutely. Be with us, Geeta. I'm just going to get in a word from Rajesh also. Rajesh, in the last few days, we've seen words of solidarity. The European Union has spoken about this, and in solidarity with Ukrainians, the leaders of Poland, the Czech Republic and Slovenia are traveling to Kyiv. But Russia has been relentless, isn't it? And absolutely unperturbed by what the European Union has to say or about the kind of sanctions that has been imposed on the Russian Federation.
Look, right now, Ukraine does not need words and visits by these people. Ukraine needs weapons, Ukraine needs aircraft, Ukraine needs aid. The mere words are not enough, and this is what they are not getting. They are not getting the weapons, they are not getting the ammunition, the aircraft, which they actually need. They need the world to enforce a no-fly zone over Ukraine. This is what they're not doing. So these just words coming from them have no meaning. Ukraine does not need words right now. Ukraine needs help in terms of no-fly zone or aircraft or weapons. Over to you.
Be with us. Geeta, also I want to ask you, just give us an idea about the kind of evacuation work that has been done in Lviv. Has everybody moved out of their homes, given that Russia is not sparing residential areas and civilians are being hit as well?
Well, in terms of evacuations, Neha, a very important question, because like I said, if Lviv is the center for supply, it is also the center for people to leave, to evacuate. So while other cities from the eastern parts of Ukraine, including central parts of Ukraine, are evacuating, they're evacuating to this very city, because after reaching Lviv, they then choose their borders, whether they want to go through the border in the Ukraine-Hungary border, or for that matter, the Ukraine-Poland border. So a lot of people who come to Lviv are looking at crossing over into Poland. And while they decide on how to, when to, and look at logistics, this is where they stay. While you're seeing a lot of people on the streets today, is because they're all moving to a bomb shelter. But normally, when we were here last time, while we were going to Kiev, the city wore quite a dead look, quite an abandoned look. not because there weren't people, because they were all in various homes. So all the homes over here are housing people more than capacity. Why? Because all their family members, friends from various parts of Ukraine have descended upon the city and are living with family members in Lviv. Not everybody can afford hotels, and not many hotels are available. All the hotels are absolutely booked. So they're living with family members and friends, and many of them have volunteered to take people in. Even if they do not have friends and family, they've volunteered to take people in. So all the homes are also brimming to full capacity. And once they find their logistics in place, they then start moving to the border. So this is certainly not a city evacuated. This, in fact, is a city that is housing a lot of people who might not be visible, but a lot of people who are now planning on leaving Ukraine, even if it is temporarily.
What a situation there. Rajesh, you keep talking about how diplomacy essentially is going side by side with what really is happening in Ukraine, essentially. For our viewers, do get us up to speed with the fourth round of talks that have already taken place. And the irony of it is that even as the talks were being carried out, the shelling essentially continued, isn't it?
Look, diplomacy and war, they go side by side. If talks are going on, that doesn't mean the military offensive or the military operations will stop, and the other way around as well. If the military offensive is going on, that doesn't mean diplomacy will not go on. Both things are going side by side, and it's not just fourth round now. It is everyday conference now. Both the countries have agreed. Russia and Ukraine both have agreed to carry out these conferences every day. There'll be now meetings, virtual meetings every day. This is what they've agreed to till the time they finally meet face to face somewhere else. So, and there are indications from both sides that talks are making progress. So as I said, talks are on one side, diplomacy is on one side, war is on the other side. Russians have the momentum of war right now. They will not let this momentum of war break, because that will affect their operations. So diplomacy will continue, and so will war, till the time we have some kind of a resolution of this problem, till the time we have a middle path to which both these countries agree. Over to you.
All right, Geeta, also apart from Lviv, do give us an idea about the current situation in the entire country vis-a-vis the Russian occupation of various cities, essentially.
Strategically, absolutely agree with Rajesh on this one, that Russia does have a momentum when it comes to the places that they've occupied. Like we have been saying, Sneha, Russia chose its battleground to be well within Ukraine. It is not the border. It is not a Russia-Ukraine war being fought at the border. The Russia-Ukraine war is being fought on Ukrainian soil. And that makes a huge difference, because every advancement of the Russian forces is disadvantage Ukraine. Every time they stop somewhere and are not pushed back, it is advantage Russia and disadvantage Ukraine. So Russia does have an upper hand when it comes to how this war is playing out. And while diplomacy is underway, negotiations are underway, there has been no real outcome. Yesterday was the only time, the fourth round of chief negotiator level talks, where they said that they're looking at some technicalities. And so that negotiation level is going to continue. So we do not know when and how, but it certainly means that if there are technicalities that both sides are discussing, and Russian side says that they're adamant on a few issues, neutrality of Ukraine, a recognition of Crimea, recognition of Donetsk and Luhansk, then that certainly could cause problems for President Zelensky. But an unrelenting Ukrainian force over here trying to do as much as they can. This, even as gun battles are on in various parts. We saw foreign journalists shot to death.
Yes.
There are snipers. There are Russian forces, Russians who are taking shots at civilians. In some time, you will see the conventional war is not so conventional. The methods have been unconventional, be it Russia announcing exactly where they're going to hit before hitting, and the reason why evacuations have taken place in those cities, or for that matter, using mercenaries who might not always follow orders. So it could get rather messy, and it already has when it comes to ongoing battles that we are seeing in various parts. While the Ukrainian forces, for now, despite the surrounding of Kiev, the capital city of Kiev, they're already in the Kiev region. Despite surrounding of the capital city, they have been able to hold them at bay. Does not really mean that that can continue for long. The bigger question over here, Sneha, is also what has the West really done? For fear of escalation to a full-blown war between NATO and Russia, they are not intervening. But not intervening means that Ukraine does not have the resources to really withstand the Russian might. And we've not seen the full force of the Russian army or the Russian air force. So it is only a matter of days while negotiations are on. Will Russia be patient enough when the European Union is expediting the process of membership of Ukraine into the EU? Will they be patient enough to really allow that to happen? And if they're not going to be patient, if Putin runs out of patience, then what is going to happen? Will we only hear Biden say that, well, we are sending more food and humanitarian aid to Ukraine, and is that enough?
Absolutely. Geeta, be with us. We'll come back to you and to Rajesh for more on that story in a bit from now. We're playing out a report that Rajesh had sent us earlier today where he was, in fact, in conversation with a couple of residents there in Kiev.
I'm here with Lena, who lives near this house. Let's know what she feels about it. Lena, and how far it is? Skolka distance? Tam? Her house is just about from here, about 150 meters from here. Что ты думаешь about this?
Но были слышны очень сильно взрывы, я пару дней спать. То, что произошло здесь, это очень ужасно. Пожалуйста,
Speak English, read and speak.
I don't speak.
Okay, but I understand that you want the war to stop.
Stop.
Yes, and
No
it
war.
is no war. Okay, I understand. Thank you very much. Thank you. मैं इस वक्त उस बिल्डिंग के सामने हूँ जो आज सुबह जिसके ऊपर हमला हुआ है। पूरी बिल्डिंग धू के जल रही है। यहाँ मेरे साथ कात्या हैं जिनका घर यहाँ से सिर्फ 150 मीटर दूर है। Что ты here in the morning? Что по утрам сегодня?
Сегодня утром было слышно очень большие взрывы, огонь горел вовсю. Все люди бегут, все теряют родственников, все теряют дома. Мы хотим жить в спокойной стране, спокойно в своей стране.
She says she heard in the morning today very loud blast near her house, and it is very disturbing for her. And что ты думаешь about war? Что ты думаешь about war?
Это ужасно, это неправильно, все должны жить в мире.
Ты хочу это stop? Да? Ты хочу the war stop?
Please stop.
She says war is really bad. They are not able to live peacefully. ये आराम से नहीं रह पा रहे हैं। ये war इनके लिए खराब है। और ये लोग चाहते हैं कि लड़ाई किसी से रुक जाए। Thank you.
All right, Rajesh continues to be with us. Rajesh was in conversation with those residents, clearly telling you they don't want war. What is the distressing situation? Rajesh, give us an idea about the number of Ukrainians, essentially, who've left their countries. We've seen reports of children, in fact, who have been absorbed. Okay, we'll in fact just go back to Rajesh for more on that. Geeta also continues to be with us. Geeta, the number of people, as per the UNHRC, who have left Ukraine, do give us an idea about the huge refugee crisis that we are looking at as far as this war is concerned.
Well, it is a crisis that is of levels that can only be imagined or certainly brought to in numbers. If you want to put it, Sneha, it is an unimaginable number. Thousands and thousands, over a million, have already crossed the border and are on the other side. Now, not everybody wants to be a refugee. In fact, nobody on this planet would really want to be a refugee. And that's the sad part of it all. They've left their home, they've left their belongings, and not everybody is going across looking to change their lives with a new life and livelihood. No, they're just sitting across the border because that's NATO territory, and they know that Russia is not going to violate that NATO space. So they're safe there. They're in temporary shelters across the border in Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, and Poland, including Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. So they're sitting across in refugee camps, waiting for this entire nightmare to end. This is indeed a nightmare for Ukrainians. They want this to end. Rajesh has been speaking to people in Kiev. We've spoken to people in Kiev as well as in Lviv, and they're saying the very same thing, that they want this war to end as soon as possible. They do not want this to continue. The Ukrainians certainly feeling and suffering at the hands of the Russians, as also the inaction and silence of the West. I say silence because just sanctioning Russia is not enough, and just saying that they're going to come to Ukraine's aid and not really coming to Ukraine's help when you see people dying, that certainly is a problem. So a lot of Ukrainians over here now have started questioning. We went across Kyiv city, and you see most of the boards there, placards, posters that have been put up, says close the skies. NATO has not closed the skies because they fear escalation. But the fact of the matter is that if they do not close the skies, for Ukrainians, the fear is once the air power is used by Russia, and that certainly will be disastrous. Over here in Lviv, a lot of people have moved.
Okay.
And we're seeing a lot of people living in the wintry chill of March here in this region, living in shelters. Young children absolutely don't know what's happening. We saw families, we saw little children who've been consoled because their fathers have been left behind in Kiev while they had to move. They were in train with us yesterday, while they had to move to Lviv to save.
Geeta, I'll just come back to you for more on that. Do continue to be with us while we fix your audio as well. Gaurav Sawant is also joining us from Lviv, getting us the very latest there. Gaurav, your perspective, what do you really see around you right now in Lviv? Russia is closing in on and has renewed its attacks on the capital city of Kyiv, essentially. But what does it look like as far as Lviv is concerned?
So this is preparations perhaps for a final assault or a very major assault. Last several days were used by both sides to regroup, rearm, reassess the situation and then prepare for an assault. And we see this on both sides. The big Russian convoy movement split into multiple flanks and now is targeting Kyiv on multiple flanks from Brovary to Irpin to Bucha. And a lot of these areas are now to a very large extent in Russian control, or at least there is denial of area to the Ukrainian forces. At the same time, Ukraine continues to fight back and hard. Yesterday, when we were on board this train, we saw a train full of soldiers roll into Kiev, and this was really full of soldiers. Maybe close to 1,000 soldiers came in. Every bogie had a large number of soldiers, and they were coming in for the defense of Kiev. Similarly, there are armored personal carriers and tanks and other military hardware that's moving into the national capital for the defense of Kiev. And you know, we've been reporting every day for the past 1 month on how the situation is changing on ground in terms of troop movement, barriers, trenches, deployment, and from every battlefield. So whether it was Mariupol or Kharkiv, the defenses that were there, the trench warfare that was there, to the trench warfare that has now come to Kiev. And this is actually 21st century Europe. You see trenches being dug on roadsides in the heart of the city.
Okay, we'll just go back to Gaurav in a bit from now. We'll try and fix the line again. Geeta, coming back to you again. All right, Gaurav is with us. Gaurav, do continue. You're making a point about the manner in which...
That's right. So,
yes,
you know, the point I was making is that 21st century Europe is seeing Second World War kind of battles or preparation for those battles, and tanks are now deployed on the streets of Kiev and the outskirts of Kiev for this big battle that's likely on the cards if this round of talks also do not succeed. President Putin's aim is very clear, a regime change here. President Zelensky's aim is equally clear, to ensure that the Russians do not enter Kiev.
Yes, and it is in this context that I want to ask Rajesh about the manner in which America right now has warned China that do not interfere, even as Russia Russian forces essentially are renewing their efforts to take over the capital city. Rajesh.
America wants somehow its sanctions to have an effect on the war, and they can be really successful only if China also backs the sanctions which have been put up by the West. And China, whether will it do it or not, nobody knows. That's the X factor in this whole conflict. And yesterday there were talks between Chinese foreign minister and the representatives of the American government in Italy yesterday. How far those talks were successful and what was the outcome, not much is known as such. But yes, China also expressed concerns about the biological labs run by the Americans in Ukraine. And WHO has also mentioned about these labs, which America has till now refuted, saying that no such labs exist. So let's see how China will respond to these sanctions and demand by the Americans that if China does not comply with these sanctions on Russia, there will be consequences for China as well. So it remains to be seen how China will take it, how they will react in future. Only time will tell. But till then time, Russia's only hope of not being isolated from the rest of the world is China. Over to you.
Gaurav, Geeta and Rajesh, we'll continue to in fact come back to you for the very latest on that big story that we are tracking. Gaurav and Geeta, of course, getting us up to speed from Lviv, and Rajesh Pawar right now is in the capital city of Kiev. Right now, we have with us Oleksandra Romanetosova, a Ukrainian activist from Kiev. Thank you so much for your time. Your perspective as far as Russia's relentless effort to take over the capital city is concerned, even as warnings have come in from the US, telling China that, listen, do not interfere, do not look at collaborating with Russia.
First of all, I want to say thank you for whole people of India, because 2 days before we received 20 tons of medicine, which really good support for us. So thank you, really thank you for all the people of India for this support. And yeah, sure, for us, it's a big question of attack exactly capital Kiev. Today in the night here, it's just 8 hours before, we have a new explosion by aviation of Russian Federation. It's inside the city, explosion of like simple place where the people living. So we are spending the night in bomb shelters. So, and that's why people are not dying, but we have destroyed a huge number of houses and even metro, one of the station of metro. But if we will speak about supporting Russian Federation by China, we hope that it not happen, because if NATO afraid to support Ukraine in direct way, and told that it started Third World War, that supporting China by Russian Federation, they told that, okay, we have biggest like border between two of us in the world, between China and Russia. We hope that like their minds and they one of the biggest economy of the world, we understood that for some development, they need the peace. They need normally a relationship between Europe, USA, and between China. So if they do that, it will be a great start of the Third World War. That's why I think it will be not do in direct way, in like an open. We hope it will not happen. But really important that now China resist to support Russian industrial object for some of the part of military and aviation, and it's one of the steps. If they will not do nothing, just to stop and don't do nothing, it will be enough for us to not support Russia Federation.
You know, I'm going to talk to you about the maneuvers from all sides. In fact, we also have a European Union delegation visiting Kyiv city. But before that, Oleksandra, do tell us, where are you living right now, and give us an idea about the capital city, even as Russia is relentless in its pursuit of taking over. What does the city really look like, given that residential buildings have been bombed, civilians have not been spared?
Yeah, and I'm in the Kiev, so we are still we are staying here because we can working here. We work a lot with our initiative. It's Human Rights Defender Organization. We are one of the oldest human rights defender organizations, so we have a huge number of tasks for documentation war crimes and what happened around and help the people. For example, one of the problem it's shelling and exploding humanitarian corridor. Russia Federation give the permission that we give you 5 humanitarian corridor, like green corridor we call them, and after this 2 of them hitting. So it's really important for us that international mission back to Ukraine before 24 February. They working here, but they escaped from Kiev and from place where they can document what happened with green corridors. And that's why we are appealing to the all international organization back their mission. Yeah, bring new specialists who prepare to working in war zone because they are just that they coming and we watch, observe situation with the green corridors, help us don't have this sheltering by green corridors. And people, just civilians, can evacuate from hard places like Mariupol, like Sumy, like Volnovakha. Its city does not exist now. Russian Federation just landed like a right place. Mm-hmm. So, and what about Kiev? We sure can say that Kiev like a castle now, that hold the places around like prepared to fight with people who try and like Russian soldiers who will try to attack it. And now it's like 3 big place with destroying where they dropped the avia bombs. But hold the works. I mean, gas work, electricity, water, and heating. So it's important for us because it's possibility people stay here. Yes. Hold the people working for defending. So someone going to army, someone going to territorial defense troops, someone like volunteers prepare food, help to bring all needed for civilians who stay in Kiev. And, it's really important to understand that Kiev, it's not empty city. It's city who preparing to defend by the Russian attacks.
Absolutely, and it's commendable. The kind of fight that Ukrainians have put up, Alexandra, is really, really commendable. But is there a sense of disappointment and also betrayal because we have a delegation from the European Union visiting Kyiv in solidarity, but when there are appeals from the Ukrainian president that listen, come in and impose a no-fly zone, this is what we want really from you, or else you too will be accountable for the deaths in Ukraine, the European Union and NATO countries stayed away.
It's disappointing for us, sure, but it's not only one version for us how we can defend. So we propose other way how they can support our defending. And we understood that not in EU, it's a great number of countries, but we have neighbors, countries who really understood that Russia will not stop in Ukraine. They will come in after us if we will falling. They will come to country of Baltic, Poland, Romania, Hungary, and some of them think that they can defend themselves, like for example, Hungary. But some of them understood that only support by Ukrainian help them to don't have such ruin and don't have such destroying places like Ukrainian now. So we have neighbors. It's really important. They provide our position in EU and they provide our position in NATO. And it's important for us to we know that it's not the only one way defense, like close the sky. Close the sky help us really stop it and really really destroyed whole the forces of Russian Federation in our territory. But if it's not happened like this, we're still pushing them to do that. But if it not happened like this, we propose other version how they can support us, and we have this negotiation. We know that it's happened, and they give this support. So it's not like it's disappointed, yes, but it's not finished. It's not like that mean that we're falling. No, that's mean that we will find other way how we will defend, but we will defend to the end, because it's not question that we need to have a compromise and it will be all okay. No, Russia seriously won't destroy Ukraine because they don't like that Ukraine is independent democracy country. It's democracy example and we understood a lot Russian language. Russians understood a lot Russian and Ukrainian language. So it's important for Putin don't have such example near the Russian Federation. So that's why they want to destroy it. So for us, it's or we win or we will not exist. So for us, it's like last battle.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, and really appreciate you joining us. And like I said, we all could, are really appreciative of the fact that you've given us your time and the kind of fight that Ukrainians have really put up. Like I said, that is extremely commendable. Thank you so much for joining us and for giving us your time here. Now, India Today has been getting you all the images of the havoc and devastation from day one of the Russian invasion. These are images on your screen that show the most haunting images from the first day of the war till day 12.
These are not blown yet.
The second set of visuals on your screen capture mass destruction, intense shelling and airstrikes from day 13 of the war to day 20 of the Russian invasion, which is today.